What is up, Erdteee? Welcome to PanFro Game. Today's video, we're reviewing Mario and Luigi Brothership for the Nintendo Switch. It's been 7 years since we last saw a new entry in this series, and I'm really glad it is back. However, does it hold up to the 2024 RPG standards? This past year has been glorious for the Nintendo Switch if you enjoy Mario RPGs, because we got a remake of Mario RPG and a remake of Paper Mario Thousand Year Door. Now, does Brothership stand up to those two games or even the other games in its own franchise? Let's dive in. The main premise of Mario and Luigi Brothership is the brothers have been sucked up into a brand new world called Concordia. Now, Concordia has been completely disconnected from each other, turned into a series of islands that spans over 5 different seas, and you need to go to each one of these seas, go to the different major islands, and reconnect those islands back to Ship-Shape Island, which is our main hub area. Now, it sounds like a pretty cool concept, great for a handheld video game on the Nintendo Switch. However, there is some drawbacks to this, and I think the first major one is you actually need to go out and find every single island. Now, it's not like a very interactive experience. It's not like Wind Waker, where you're actually on a boat and you're like driving it. No, you got to select these different currents, which work as lanes. And then when you're on these currents, your ship will just travel around very slowly at first, because you don't unlock a fast forward feature until maybe about 3-4 hours into the game of this about 40 to 50 hour long RPG experience. Now, at least you do get some sort of fast travel at that point, but the beginning is incredibly slow. And not only is finding the islands very slow, just the main game is very slow. The pacing is not great. The game holds your hand with tutorials for about the first 4 or 5 hours of the game, and throughout the entire 45-hour experience, the game's main story is holding your hand, essentially telling you the ways to solve every puzzle. It pans the camera to show you exactly where you are, where the solution is. It will also reiterate what you need to be doing in the story, like we didn't already, know what we were doing in this very long RPG experience. And it definitely feels like a game that is made for younger audiences and not all audiences. Not for someone who is 31, but maybe for someone who is 8 to 12 years old is their target audience here, which I find it very unfortunate, because something like the Mario RPG series or Paper Mario, they've usually ended up being for all ages instead of a much younger audience, which I do think is disappointing as a lifetime fan of these types of games. Now, the island experience is rather interesting, but I would say mostly disappointing. Each island is a very short level, and they do get a little bit more complicated as you go through it. Sometimes some of them are more puzzle heavy, some of them are more combat heavy, but for the most part, you go to an island, you solve whatever the island's problem is. It's usually involving some sort of fetch quest or kill some sort of enemies. Sometimes they have main story implications, and sometimes there are decisions that slightly changes the story, but in no real way that truly matters, and definitely not in a way where I would recommend beating the game 2 times to see all of the different options. Now, something about the exploring that's a little bit different from the other games is Luigi is like a character you actually control. So when you walk through, you can like jump with A to control Mario, jump with B to control Luigi, but there's these points where you're solving these puzzles where you just hit the L button and Luigi will just go and either automatically do a thing for you. You don't have to worry about him platforming, and you just got to worry about Mario platforming, or he'll just, go pick up like random coins and things like that for you. So sometimes it's actually nice to have him like collect things on your behalf, but it does remove the beauty of the Mario and Luigi series where you're actually controlling both. It feels more like it's Mario and your AI companion Luigi, which sort of takes away the magic from the puzzle solving experience. And I do gotta say, the puzzles are not really interesting, and they're not doing anything new or innovative, even compared to the past games. It's very much, oh, do you just stand here? Oh, sometimes we gotta switch places and things like that. It's nothing too crazy, and none of it is really memorable in that regard. The different islands, there are like fire islands, ice islands, desert islands, jungle islands, a bunch of different themes. None of the themes are ever actually mind-blowing or definitely insane. But the best part about these islands is this is where you're going to be doing your combat. I think the combat is absolutely the best part of this game. So in combat, it's very active. You control Mario and Luigi, A for Mario, B for Luigi. However, a huge minus for me is Luigi's menus are using the A button, but when you're attacking or countering, you use the B button. In previous games, Luigi was always on the B button no matter what, and it was just an inverse of Mario's controls. That is something I had to get used to, and I personally don't like that switch. But you can use jump attacks, you can use your hammer attacks, and you can use your brother's attacks. The brother's attacks are really cool cinematic experiences where you got to hit the button at the right time, and depending on the situation, different buttons will be required, and they're really cool. You know, you get about 10 of these throughout the game, 5 for each brother, unlocked by main story progress. They do tons of damage, either single target or AoE, and it's just really nice. However, it can drag on for a bit because considering the length of this game, you will eventually get tired of this battle system. Even though it's really fun, you know, you get to learn the timing between different enemies' attacks and counter them. You can also time your attacks correctly to do even more damage, whether you're jumping or using your hammer attacks. But when I thought the combat was starting to get boring about, around the 10-hour mark, a new mechanic unlocks, which is the socket mechanic. And these are attacking modifiers, and you actually unlock up to 5 of these modifiers you can use at once. These modifiers can be combined as well. You get a modifier that does AoE damage after your regular attacks, and then you get a modifier where you can drop like these iron balls. You have both of these together. After every time you attack, the AoE damage will hit everyone, and then the iron balls will also hit everyone as well. There's status effects, like you can burn people, you can freeze them, and there's even status things you can use for yourself, which is actually pretty neat to give yourself buffs or make it so you take less damage. And there's a lot of neat stuff and depth in that combat, but the unfortunate thing is because the main story does just take so long, and there is a lot of side content too that is optional. You don't have to do it, but I ended up doing it all because I wanted 100% the game. It just sort of keeps dragging and dragging. And something I didn't like is every time you had to go into combat, there is a loading screen. Every time you finish combat, there's a loading screen. There's a lot of loading screens, and it's just sort of annoying, and it really does eat up a lot of time, especially as 2024 when there shouldn't be so much loading for a turn-based RPG, which I do think is a little bit disappointing. But I will say though, I think the enemy designs in this game are actually really awesome. I enjoyed fighting the enemies. The boss fights are really cool, and the boss fights actually have unique mechanics with Luigi, where you can do a special Luigi logic attack against them, which is probably the highlights of the game for me, is doing these special boss encounters with the Luigi mechanic. Now, some of the downsides of this game, I already mentioned a bunch of downsides, but even more, I don't think any of the new characters are memorable. I don't like how they're designed. I think it's very disappointing that they're all just light sockets, which is, pretty lame. It fits with the theme, but I don't think the theme of the game is that great. The dialogue is really repetitive, and it just, it's sort of lame, and I just, start skipping text at a certain point because it's like, okay, yes, I just got to do X, Y, and Z thing and just keep on going through the story, which is a little bit disappointing in general because, these games usually have some great writing, but the writing is so passable that I just don't think it honestly matters in this very mediocre 35 to 40 hours or even 50-hour experience, depending if you want to do all the content in this game. At the end of the day, I think Mario & Luigi Brothership is a game that tried to reclaim the glory of the past titles. However, I think it does not succeed and ends up being an okay experience. And on the PanFro game scale, I'll give it a 6.5 out of 10. Wouldn't say this is a day one purchase, but hey, if you want to play a Mario RPG, go for it. But if you've never played a Mario RPG, I would recommend the Mario RPG remake, the Paper Mario 1,000 Year Door remake, or even the Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga re-release that is on Nintendo Switch Online right now. So I would put those games over this if you had to only pick one of these games to play on your Switch today. Anyways, guys, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe if you're new. I really appreciate it. Catch you guys next time. Peace out, and have a good one.